Alright, so right here we got lowest. Alright, so right here we got highest versus low skill decks in Clash Royale by 𝑭𝑹𝑵 or 𝑭𝑹𝑵, however you say it. But as always, his video is going to be linked in the description. He usually makes pretty good videos, but let's get into it. What are you doing, YouTube? Come on.
Every deck in Clash Royale takes some skill to have success with, but here's the reality. Some decks are just way easier to learn than others. Therefore, these decks are usually considered low skill. But there are also decks with which you need to play perfectly in order to win. These decks are often categorized as high skill. So today I'm revealing the top 5 highest and lowest skill decks in Clash Royale. Stick around because the number 1 pick is actually quite surprising. So, starting off the highest skill decks. At number 5 we have 𝑃 Bridge Spam. In recent years, the Battle Ram version of this deck has become a lot harder to play. The meta doesn't seem to support 𝑃 much, and she was nerfed multiple times in the last year. Buildings are becoming stronger day by day in Clash Royale. That's unfortunately not good news for 𝑃 players. It's not easy to get a Battle Ram connection anymore. Oftentimes, you will struggle against fast decks with a building. To actually have success with 𝑃 Bridge Spam, you need to be really smart with your plays. Whether it's making a prediction
Bro. Here we go.
using your Zap or Fireball, or using your Magic Archer to get some sneaky damage, these kinds of plays are necessary if you want to win. Moreover, you need to make sure to apply pressure in both lanes using your Royal Ghost and Bandit. Unfortunately, classic 𝑃 Bridge Spam doesn't have any great evolutions. The deck relies on 𝑃 and Battle Ram evolutions, both of which are mid. A lot of popular evolutions like Cannon and Firecracker are great at countering 𝑃 Bridge Spam. I actually don't remember the last time this deck actually got a good finish on top ladder. Now, starting off the lowest skill decks. At number 5, we have Giant Graveyard. This is an extremely annoying deck, and it just relies on the broken synergy between the Giant and Graveyard. The Giant tanks for the Graveyard, while its skeletons keep on dealing damage. The dual threat is really hard to defend. Moreover, the Graveyard's RNG makes this deck even more irritating. Even if you place your troops perfectly, there is a high chance you will still take a load of damage. What are you even supposed to do? You can drop swarms to counter the Graveyard, but they too get taken out by the snowball and arrows. Defense is easy with this deck. The bowler provides a solid defense, and mostly players have nothing to counter him. He doesn't die to any spell, plus sometimes his shots can also line up on the tower randomly. For air, you will have minions and either a witch or a musketeer. These cards always force out a spell. Suppose you drop a spell on the minions. Now, you don't have anything to defend a Giant Graveyard plus witch push. The whole sequence is annoying, and it's just the same thing over and over again until your opponent eventually crumbles. Guards make this deck even more annoying because there's no point in predicting them with spells. Their shields will soak the hit, and they will still counter your cards. Over the last few years, Giant Graveyard has grown more popular and has gotten a lot of good finishes on top ladder. Playing this deck is so easy that the only easier thing than this is hitting that like and subscribe button. At number 4 in the highest skill decks category, we have Hog Rider 𝑬𝑨𝑚. This deck isn't that hard to pick up, but it's incredibly difficult to master. Winning hard counters with Hog EQ is one of the toughest things to do in Clash Royale, especially because your entire defense revolves around one card, the Firecracker. And if you realize that your opponent has
shut up.
arrows, you're cooked. At that moment, you need to play picture perfect if you want to outplay your opponent. You can't cycle your Firecrackers wrong. You can't just spam your Hog Riders recklessly. You need to make sure to not provide spell defense. Also, you need to make sure when and where to use your Earthquake with your Hog Rider. Hog EQ can also struggle against decks where the win condition drops directly on a tower like Miner and Goblin Drill. These decks have a really good defense, and you need to outcycle their counters to break through with your Hog Rider. The Firecracker is not that useful in these kinds of matchups, and if you're facing Lava Loon, then that's basically a death sentence. With Hog EQ, you really need to outplay your opponent in most matchups. Placement is important. Keeping track of elixir and card cycle is important. With so many things to focus on, Hog EQ is one of the toughest decks to play, and only the very best players are able to achieve success with it consistently. Which deck do you have the most success with? Comment down below. At number 4 of the lowest skill decks, we have 𝑃 Goblin Giant. Oh boy, where do I even begin? This deck was introduced in the last few months, and it's been taking the meta by storm. Pro players are complaining about it because so many undeserved players are just abusing this deck to get good finishes. For your information, this deck is the most used deck in the game win right now. There's a clear problem with this deck. The synergy between the cards of this deck is way too broken. The P.E.K.K.A. and Goblin Giant evolutions are just busted under the effects of the Rage spell. The Goblin Curse is especially effective when you want to eliminate your opponent's defensive troops quickly. But the major issue is not the P.E.K.K.A. or the Goblin Giant or the spells. It's the Goblin Machine. This annoying piece of crap will destroy your counter so quickly while being tanked for by the P.E.K.K.A. and Goblin Giant. Put it under the Rage spell and it'll instantly nuke out everything. Don't forget that this deck is played with the Royal Chef. You already have 2 heavy tanks. Now make them 1 level higher and they're basically unkillable. The whole push becomes way too aggressive and the opponent eventually gives in under pressure. But wait, what about the defense of this deck? Oh, well, this deck has hardly any defense. Why? Because it doesn't need it. If your opponent tries to punish you, they will waste their
All you
elixir.
gotta do
You
is
can just
spam.
ignore their push and instead go for the 3-crown victory. And you will always win the 3-crown race
This
because of
guy
how
here
heavy
gets it.
hitting your cards are. This deck is just plain stupid. You're not doing anything special to win, just repeating the same dumb push again and again until your opponent gives up. Next, at number 3 of the highest skill decks, we have Royal Giant Cycle. This is regarded as a very reliable deck amongst the pros, and for good reason. This deck has the ability to outplay any matchup, regardless of how hard it is, but it's easier said than done. Some matchups are easy for this deck, like Mortar, Hog Rider, X-Bow, or Logbait, but some others like Lava Loon, P.E.K.K.A. Goblin Giant, and Sparky aren't that easy. In order to win against these matchups, you will need to outcycle your opponent's counters and have 2 Royal Giants on the field at the same time. This isn't easy because you also need to commit Elixir to defend against your opponent's push. You also need to use your Fisherman efficiently to pull away troops trying to attack your Royal Giant. Good players can predict your Fisherman with a Swarm card. So now, you have to basically predict their prediction and kill their swarms instantly with a spell or something. All of this requires a lot of skill. You need to keep adjusting throughout the match according to the plays your opponent makes. Keeping track of their elixir is really important too, so that you can punish them using your Royal Giant whenever you get the opportunity. Using your Hunter Revolution smartly can prove to be a game changer, as it can immobilize enemy troops. You don't have much air defense though in this deck. Hunter is your only option, so you also need to make sure that you're cycling your Hunter correctly. Royal Giant gets good finishes on top ladder because pros are able to play the deck correctly. Normal players usually struggle a lot with Royal Giant, as they're unable to defend efficiently and can't make predictions. What deck do you find the hardest to play? Let me know in the comments. At number 3 of the lowest skill decks, we have the Electro Giant Beatdown. This is one of the most hated decks in mid-ladder. The deck is incredibly easy to play. Deploy your Electro Giant, pull enemy troops towards it using the Tornado, and drop a lightning on any buildings or surviving troops. There you go. Easy win. It may sound dumb, but this is literally the only thing you need to do to win with Electro Giant. Melee troops get countered by the Electro Giant, ranged troops get pulled by the Tornado, buildings get destroyed by the lightning instantly. So how are you even supposed to defend against this deck? Even if you have a hard-hitting card like P.E.K.K.A. or Mini P.E.K.K.A., the Electro Giant player will still get lightning value on offense and will basically win the match based on lightning damage alone. This is just so dumb. But wait, that's not all. The opponent also has to worry about those random Golden Knight dashes or the evolved Bowler becoming a Magic Archer and destroying the entire tower. How is the opponent supposed to defend all that?
How? 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 I don't know.
Decks like Electro Giant are the reason why people hate on Beatdown so much. I have nothing against Beatdown, but Electro Giant decks are just stupid. Taking the number 2 place in the highest skill decks, we have Royal Hog's Earthquake. Often regarded as the best deck of all time in Clash Royale, Royal Hog's
this deck has
Earthquake
been
seems
popular
easy
for a
to play
very
at first
long
glance.
time.
I mean, just drop your piggies, use your Archer Queen for defense, and just Earthquake cycle, right? Well, it's not that easy. Defending with this deck can be quite tricky, especially against other fast cycle decks. Firstly, you don't have anything much to counter win conditions, which can be dropped directly on the tower. Those are almost guaranteed to get damage every time. Secondly, against Lightning and Earthquake decks, it becomes almost impossible to stop a push. Lightning kills your queen instantly, while the Earthquake 2-shots the cannon. This can lead to cards like Balloon, Hog Rider, and Royal Giant to get easy damage. To counter this, you need to be really quick and drop your defensive cards in the perfect order. This will lead to getting your counter back in your cycle as soon as your opponent counters the first one. This is definitely not always doable, and you need to play 100% perfectly. A single misplay, and it's all over. Even on offense, getting damage can be tough if your opponent has a lot of splash damage cards and buildings. You need to make predictions, keep track of cycle and elixir, and punish your opponent accordingly. This deck relies on getting positive elixir trades, so you need to make sure that you're defending in the cheapest way possible, almost every time, and not overcommitting on offense. This is what normal players are unable to do, which makes this deck hard for them to master. At number 2 of the lowest skill decks, we have Elixir Golem Cycle. If you thought Electro Giant was dumb, you're not ready for Elixir Golem. This deck follows only one rule: build your Elixir Golem push and ignore everything your opponent does in the other lane. This strategy sounds stupid. The sad reality is that it actually works. Elixir Golem players will ignore basically everything and just build a huge Elixir Golem push. Night Witch, Battle Healers, Dragons, Goblin Machines, and whatnot. Drop the Rage spell on top of them all,
basically,
and your opponent is
you
just helpless.
spam.
While an Elixir Golem
Don't
push can
use
be
the
defended in
brain.
single
That's
Elixir.
all.
It's the double and triple Elixir where the troubles start. You drop your Elixir Golem behind your King Tower and start building support behind him. By the time your Elixir Golem reaches the bridge, you have another Elixir Golem ready. You drop that one in the other lane, and suddenly your opponent has to deal with double Elixir Golem pushes, which, of course, can't be defended most of the time. Don't try to use any brain cells while playing Elixir Golem. The more brain dead you play with Elixir Golem, the more success you will have with the deck. Finally, at number 1, as the highest skill deck in Clash Royale, we have Miner Balloon Cycle. This is a really tough deck to play because of 2 reasons. First, you need to always defend 100% efficiently and look for positive Elixir trades. Even a slight mistake on defense can result in you losing the game. Secondly, you need to make good predictions with your Miner, Snowball, and even the Evolved Musketeer, because without these predictions, you can never outplay your opponent. A solo balloon is easy to stop, so you need to predict your opponent's counters and snipe them before they can take out your balloon. This deck allows for some really creative plays, which is a major reason why it's only played by pros. You don't rely on any broken cards to win with this deck, just raw skill. And as the lowest skill deck in Clash Royale, at number 1 we have Royal Recruits Piggies. The fact that you can be a player 10 times better than yourselves with this Clash Royale, at number 1 we have Royal Recruits Piggies. The fact that Royal Hogs deploy your flying machine in the middle and nuke their counters with fireball and arrows, that's the only thing you need to do. This deck is the definition of brain dead, and absolutely no one likes it. Building your own deck can give you an advantage over these decks because you'll be harder to predict. So if you want to learn how to build a deck for every win condition in Clash Royale, click on this.
Great video, like I said. Link is going to be in the description. Love you all.